Hi there, I'm Will with Jovial Concepts, and right here I'm with one of our largest gardens in the program here today. This is a first-year garden, so we're definitely having an issue with some weed issues, namely the biggest weed culprit, bindweed. It's a pretty pervasive little weed. It likes to grow. It's a little vine. It likes to grow on things, choke things out. This little mess in here, you know, it's actually mostly the bean plant because it is a vine. But then you get the bindweed that mixes along with it and sort of locks it together and knots it together. You can see in here these little pretty little flowers that come off it. They're very nice, and you know, yeah, this is one. They're also white. They're pink. You want to try and get the bindweed before it gets to the flowering stage, so it doesn't seed and spread even more in the garden. But as you can see in here, this canopy is getting big enough to where the bindweed isn't really affecting it much. It still comes out underneath, but it's much more docile, and it's much more, you can sort of tell when the canopy is doing its job compared to one that's out in the open here where it's full sunlight. You can see the color difference here. One is a lot lighter and one is much darker. And even when it's in the light, it gets and it's a little bit more even stringy and long and less leaves on the stem and then compared to the other ones. That's when you know the canopy is starting to do its job, when the bindweed starts getting long, stringy, and real light green. And then put it in the sun like that, let it bake, and then it'll eventually turn into this stuff, and sort of the nutrients will go back into the soil. With the stage of these tomatoes is that once you get the bindweed down to a certain level, even with the canopy of all the squashes and all the tomatoes, the big thing is to make sure that the plants you don't want to grow, which include bindweed, you know, the mallow plants, those are only the real two. You got amaranth, you got a couple others, but you want to make sure that they all just stay lower than the plants you want to get, and eventually they will all get overcrowded. So that's the trick to mid-season. The easy mid-season weeding. It sort of all switches from weeding heavily in the beginning to harvesting heavy at the end. Here's a great example of a bindweed that's spread over a couple of plants, it looks like, but it's a little, like, this is another one that's too healthy. You see how big these leaves get? Now one of the biggest determining factor on a bindweed, see the arrowhead here? It's these two little forks that come off the back. Our bean plants look like a little bit of an arrowhead, but they got a nice round back. You will always, this is the dead giveaway on a bindweed plant. And this one's pretty good, so I like to track it from, see where it goes. It's spread across here, there we go. And then come down and around. Wow, amazing. And sometimes they converge from a couple different bindweed plants. So then I'll track her back down. Oh yeah, there we go, look at that. So I just gently tug. There's a good one. It's got a little remnants in here, so I'm gonna go and get the rest of this out. When you get down to it, you wanna get as close to the bottom as you can and sort of, this is the ideal situation, of course. You wanna pull out as much of it as you can, because if you see, this is what was above the ground, and this is what I just pulled out from underneath. And this is what happens, is you'll pick it like this, this will be left in the ground, and it'll just keep growing, and this will get bigger, and it's a vicious cycle. So you want to pick out as much as you can out of the ground and get the green stuff off as soon as possible. But if you look around, this used to be a prairie grassland. We turned it directly from grass into garden. So this is the first year. So the other thing you want to do is make sure the grass stays low, and you pick the grass as much as possible until it gets big enough. We leave certain ones in there as a cover crop. You have these little clovers, little tiny guys. Sometimes they can get big, but they're good actually for the soil. So we try and leave these alone. You know, we don't want to keep the soil bare if we can help it, because that opens it up for other invasive species to come in. We also have the mallow plant, which is I think it's on the noxious weed list for Colorado, but what it does is it's actually medicinal. in a lot of ways, they say, but it just sort of takes over. It doesn't really hurt anything. It just sort of takes up a lot of space. So this here is a mallow plant. Gets nice little flowers on it. I'm never too worried about them until they get too big to where you could put something else in its place that you want to grow. So that's another part of how we take care of our gardens here at Jovial Gardens. So if you have any more questions on how to garden, you can visit jovialconcepts.org. You can see all the different videos we have about maintaining your garden there. And if you want to learn hands-on experience, please feel free to come out and work in the gardens with us. Other than that, bye for now. We hope to see you soon.